right, going back to 2.1, R is the midpoint of the segment. We can tell because they have both halves marked congruent using the little tick marks. So we're going to find PR and PQ. So if this half is 5, then how big is this half? Good. And so now they want me to find the length of PR, which we just said was 5. And they want me to find the length of PQ, which is the whole thing. So 5 plus 5 gives me a length of 10. Same concept for number 2. We just have some variables. So M is the midpoint of the segment, and you can see that both halves are marked congruent with the tick marks. Congruent, what does that mean algebraically? How would we write that out? What does congruent mean? They equal each other. Yeah, they're the same length. They equal each other. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to set this half, 7x plus 5, equal to this half, 8x. Yep, congruent means equal. And now we can solve this equation. Because my constant's already on the left side, I'm going to move my variable terms to the right side. So I'm going to subtract 7x from both sides, and we get 5 equals x. Now we're not done, because they also ask for the length of Jm. J to m. So that means we're going to plug 5 back in for x. So 7 times 5 plus 5. Yep, 35 plus 5 means that this half is 40. Now, if you want to double, triple check your work, triple check, you could also plug in 40 in for x over, not 40, sorry, 5. You can plug in 5 for x over here, and we get 40. Does that half match this half? Good. It needs to, because they're congruent, right? So that's good. That just confirms we know we did it right. We got 40 and 40, which means our x value is correct. So again, midpoint is in the middle. Line L bisects this segment. What does bisects mean? Yes, cut in half. Basically the same thing, right? Same thing as a midpoint. Midpoint cuts in half. Bisect means cut in half. And that's cool because they already marked it in our picture for us with the tick marks. So it's the same thing we just did. The two halves are congruent, which algebraically means that we can set the two halves equal to each other. So we set them equal. It doesn't matter what side you put your constants and what side you put your variable terms on. I like to keep my variable terms positive, so I'm going to move them to the right side. And that gives me 5x. And if I put the variable terms on the right side, I'm going to move my constants to the left side. If you do something to one side of the equation, you have to keep your equation balanced and do it to the other side of the equal sign. So 15 minus 25 is negative 10 equals 5x. And then we can divide both sides by 5. And we get negative 2 equals x. Sorry, I know you guys don't have a ton of room there to show your work. But we didn't only have to find x, that was one part. We also wanted to find jk. So j to k is actually the whole segment. So what I can do is I can find 1/2, and then I know that that's going to be the other half as well. So let's plug in negative 2. So 3 times negative 2 plus 15. So that's multiply first. That's negative 6. Then we add. Negative 6 plus 15 is 9. I like to think of that as 15 minus 6 because I think it's easier to think of it that way. And if that half is 9, then how big is this half? 9. Yeah, good, because they're congruent. So the whole length is 9 plus 9, which is 18. That's the one in our packet. This is the review. Sorry, I must not have given you one because I'm sorry, you were in the bathroom. The same thing happened last hour, I'm sorry. So the whole length is 18. So you really want to make sure you know exactly what part they're asking for. So 9 plus 9. Okay, I see some of you working ahead. Find the coordinates of the midpoint N if A is negative 1, 4, and B is 9, negative 6. So we have A. We have our other endpoint B. and we're trying to find the coordinates of the midpoint. We add them together and divide by 2 to get the middle. So let's first look at the x values. What's negative 1 plus 9? Or 9 minus 1? Yep, negative 1 plus 9. And then we want half of that, so 8 divided by 2 means that the x value of our midpoint is at 4. And for the y values, we add them together. 4 plus negative 6. So 4 plus a negative is minus. So 4 minus 6 is negative 2. Okay. And half of negative 2 is negative 1. Write this down. And that is negative 1. So there's the coordinates of my midpoint n. 4, negative 1. Now, does 4 seem like it's in the middle of negative 1 and 9? Yeah. Does negative 1 seem like it's in the middle of 4 and negative 6? Mm-hmm. If you got, let's say you got positive 1, or let's say you got 3, right? 3 is not in the middle of 4 and negative 6. So you can kind of think about it, make sure that your numbers make sense. So now we're finding the coordinates of an endpoint B if we know the midpoint is 1, 5 and A is at 5, 8. So we have A at 5, 8. We don't know our other endpoint B, right? That's what we're trying to find, X and Y. And then we know the coordinates of our midpoint M is at 1, 5. There's 2 different ways to do this, and I'm going to show you both. I think one of them's easier, but I do want to show you the second method. So, to find the middle, or to find the endpoint, how far is 5 away from the middle at 1?
4.
Yep, we subtracted 4, so now we're going to do the same thing. 1 minus 4, yep, gives me an x value of negative 3. Good.
Wait, can you redo that?
Yep. So how do you go from 5 to 1? Minus 4? Yep, and then you do that again. 1 minus 4 takes you to negative 3.
So then it's on 2. It's
And-
going to make it 8.
Same thing for the y's. How do you go from 8 to 5?
Minus 3.
You subtract 3. So 5 minus 3 takes us to 2. Yep. Good. So there's our coordinates. The endpoint is at negative 3, 2. So then ask yourself, does 1 seem like it's in the middle of 5 and negative 3? Does 5 seem like it's in the middle of 8 and 2? Plus you. Yeah. So here's how you're going to do it algebraically. If you need to. Okay, you can always do it this way, but if you start to get confused with negatives and stuff and you're like, my answer doesn't make sense, I'm going to show you a different method.
If we do that with the test, we get both points.
Yes. Good question. Yep. Okay, so the midpoint, so I'm going to just look at the x value first. The midpoint equals the endpoint plus the other endpoint that we don't know, all divided by 2. Right? So it's the endpoints divided by 2, and that gives you the midpoint. Same thing we did here. Endpoint plus endpoint divided by 2 gave me the midpoint. Right? Same thing. So we'd multiply both sides by 2, and then we would subtract a 5 over, and we would get negative 3 equals x, which is exactly what we got. Okay, and we can do the same thing for the y value. The y value of the midpoint is 5, and that equals 8 plus x, or y. Sorry, we don't know what that is. Let's pretend like we didn't figure it out. So you add the 2 endpoints together and divide it by 2. So then we first multiply both sides by 2. We get 10 equals 8 plus y. We subtract over the 8, and we get 2 equals y, which is exactly what we got. So it is good to know the algebraic way, because I think you are going to have to do that next year. But for now, counting is okay too. All right, ray KM bisects. What does bisects mean again? Cut in half. Good. It means the 2 halves are equal. So if KM bisects this angle, then this half equals this half. That's what bisects means. It cuts into two congruent angles. So 3x minus 7 equals 23. Add the 7 over first. If you add it to one side of the equation, you have to add it to the other. 3x equals 30. Divide both sides by 3. And we get x equals 10. How could I check my answer? Plug it in. So 3 times 10. Yep. 3 times 10 is 30, and 30 minus 7 is 23. And does 23 match the other half, 23? Good. Then we know that we did it right. That's how you can always check your work, which is the cool part about math. Number 7. Again, we see this word bisects. If BD bisects my big angle ABC, yep, then I know these two halves are congruent, so I can go ahead and set them equal to each other. The hardest part about this quiz for most people is knowing when to set things equal to each other, to 180, and to 90. So it's all about reading those directions and knowing what that means. So I'm going to put the variable terms on the left side. I'm going to subtract 2x from both sides, and we get 3x plus 18 equals 12. Then, since I moved the variable terms to the left side, I'm going to subtract 18 and move the constants to the right side, and we get 3x equals negative 6. And then we divide both sides by 3, and we get x equals negative 2. But we're not done. They also want me to find the measure of angle DBC. So we're going to take negative 2 and plug it in. So here's angle DBC. So 2 times negative 2 plus 12. So I'm plugging it in for x. That's negative 4 plus 12, which is 12 minus 4, which is 8. Now, I made up this problem, and the numbers clearly are not great because is that really an 8-degree angle? No way. Okay? Yours on the quiz will make sense. Mine does not because I just picked random numbers. Now, if we wanted to check, we could plug in negative 2 into this side. So we get negative 10 plus 18, which is 8. Does 8 match this half? Yeah, and they should. So that's a really good way to check your work.
Wait, can you just go back like 10 seconds? Okay.
All right, complementary angles add up to how many degrees?
90?
So the C, you can make it to which number? 9. Yeah, supplementary, you can make it to an 8, so supplementary adds up to 180. Adjacent means right next to each other where they share a common vertex and a common side. Non-adjacent means they don't share a common vertex and a common side, and they're not right next to each other. So 50 plus 30 is 80, so is that complementary?
No.
Nope. It's neither, yeah. Doesn't add up to 90 or 180. Do they share a common vertex and a common side?
No.
No. They don't share anything. So we say non-adjacent. 50 plus 40 is 90 degrees. That means they're complementary. They add up to 90. Do they share a common vertex and a common side? Yes. Quickly. Okay, so here's a common vertex. Here's a common side. So yes, they are adjacent. They're right next to each other. Yeah. I'll give it to you, but you should write it out because you will have the spelling in the directions. And you won't be rushed for time, so. But yes, I would. Okay, find the value of x. 1. Do you see the word bisected anywhere?
No.
No.
Do you see the angles marked congruent anywhere? Nope. Do they look congruent?
No.
Nope. Okay, so don't set them equal. Do not, there's no reason to set them equal. Okay? However, how many degrees are in a line? How many degrees are here?
180.
Yes. So they add up to 180 when you add them together. Yep, so we're going to combine like terms. How many x's do I have? Yep. 14 plus 20 is 34x. Yep. And how many numbers? I have 70 plus 8 is 78. And again, they add 280 degrees because they make a straight line. They're called a linear pair. They make a line. Yep. So now we're just solving the equation. If you do something to one side of the equation, you have to do it to the other. So we get 34x equals 102. Divide both sides by 34, and we get x equals 3.
We just have to sub for x, right?
Yep. Yep, find the value of x, so we're good. Yeah, always go back and check your directions just to make sure you did everything that they were asking. That's a really good skill to do. Alright, again, do you see the word bisects anywhere? Nope. Do you see the two angles being marked congruent anywhere? Nope. Nope. Do they look equal? I think the bottom one looks bigger. Not really. But we can't go based off of looks. Right? That's just a strategy to kind of help you check. But what is this 90? Oh, that's not what I'm going to say. What does this box mean?
90 degrees.
They add up to 90 degrees. Okay, box means 90 degrees. I didn't mean to say that. They add up to 90. Are they each individually a 90-degree angle? No. You have to add them up. So let's do that. 15x minus 43 plus 8x plus 18 equals 90 degrees. Again, because there's a box there that shows they add up to 90. So how many x's do I have? 15 plus 8, 23 x's. Negative 43 plus 18 is negative 25. And that equals 90. Solve your equation now. Add 25 to both sides. And we get 23x equals 115. Divide both sides by 23. And then x equals 5. And we're done. Okay, so again, really make sure you read your directions, know your definitions. You don't want to just start setting everything equal to each other when they're not equal. Make sure you know what a linear pair is, what the box means, and everything like that. Okay. Angle A and angle B are complementary. So, what does complementary mean?
180. Oh.
Yep. So just think of the C. Oh, remember, if I give you a compliment, I'm always right. So right meaning 90 degrees. And then I like to think of the C, you can make it to a 9.
Okay, so I did this. I made it go to 180, but then,
You add them up to 180.
no, they equal 90.
Okay, so let me give you two scenarios because I see this a lot on quizzes. So this is, I want you guys to tell me which one's right. The one on the right?
Yeah.
What do we think? Do we agree with Xander?
Is that because you have to find 90, so you have to add them both together to find 90?
Yes. That's what complementary means. Complementary means they add up to 90. Does complementary mean that they're 90 individually? No. Then they would really be supplementary if that was the case.
Right, but then when I equaled it, like,
This, that's wrong.
right, but when measure A and measure B, wouldn't that equal up to 90?
Yes, you add them together.
Right, so
Yep.
when I just did that and equaled it to 180, it equaled to 90 and not 180. And that's why I'm so confused.
You're supposed to equal it to 90.
I know that, but I'm saying that when I got measure A and measure B, and I got two numbers, I added them together. And
Oh,
I
and they
got
added up to 90? You must have solved it wrong then. That's really weird.
Right?
Yeah,
That's
that
why I
is
thought
really
it was
weird.
right. And then I
Yeah,
was
right. That's really weird. That should not have happened. They should have
Wait.
added up to 180.
You're
So
not
your
supposed to
math
get
must have been
90?
wrong. No, you will get 90.
You
You
will.
will. And
That's
she
what
did.
I got, but I equaled it to 180.
Okay. Let me look. So, complementary means add up to 90. Okay, so how many x values do I have? 9. 9x. How many? Negative 10 plus 37 is positive 27. Okay. Equals 90. Subtract the 27 over. That's 9x equals 63. 63 divided by 9 is 7. Yeah.
And then because then 180 minus 90 is 153, and 153 divided by 9 is 7.
Yeah, so now, yeah, that's weird. So, yeah, we got x, but we need to find the measures of angle A and B, so what do I do with the x then? We're going to plug it in. So 5 times 7 minus 10, so that's 35 minus 10, which is 25 degrees for the measure of angle A. So again, we plugged it back in. Once we found x, we plug it back in. And then for B, again, plug in 7 for x. So 4 times 7 is 28, plus 37 is 65 degrees. Now, here's how you check. Do these add up to 90?
Yeah.
Yes. Check. They're complementary. So that means we're correct. So that's good. That's a good thing. Okay, this is obviously not multiple choice now, but it will be on your quiz. Now, on your quiz for multiple choice questions, I still give you partial credit. So when you guys have multiple choice questions, you want to show your work. So if you set up the first step correctly, but you got the wrong answer, I'm still going to give you half the points. So on multiple choice, you still want to show all of your work. And it helps you do the problem correctly anyways. So if R is the midpoint of ST, I think it helps to draw a picture here. So we have ST, and R is the midpoint. R is the middle. S to R is 2x plus 10. And R to T is 4x minus 8. They want me to find x. Well, if R is the midpoint, what can you guys tell me about these two halves? What can you tell me about this and this? If R is the midpoint, it cuts it in half.
Let's equal each other.
Yep, so the two halves are equal, so we set them equal. So now we solve this equation. Let's subtract 2x from both sides. We get 10 equals 2x minus 8. Add the 8 over, and we get 18 equals 2x. Divide both sides by 2, and we get x equals 9. Again, if you set this first equation up right, I'm going to give you a point, even if you solved it wrong. So you really want to make sure you show your work on multiple choice. Find the coordinates of R, which is the midpoint of QS. So they gave me the two endpoints, and they want me to find the coordinates of the midpoint. So midpoint, we want to find the middle. So we add them together and divide by 2. So negative 2 plus a negative 6 divided by 2. What's negative 2 plus negative 6? That's the same as negative 2 minus 6, which is negative 8. And half of negative 8 is 4. So again, add the x's together, divide by 2. Add the y's together, divide by 2. So negative 5 minus 3, adding a negative 3, which is minus, right, plus a negative 3. So negative 5 minus 3 is negative 8. And negative 8 divided by 2 is negative 4. And I forgot to write the negative here. So there, negative 4, negative 4. Is it okay that they're the same? Yes. Yep. So there's my midpoint, which are the coordinates for R. All right, what is the measure of angle RSV if the measure of angle RST is 130 degrees? Okay, so what is the measure of angle RSV? Oh, I'm wrong. RSV. If the measure of angle RST, so that's the whole thing, is 130. So the whole thing's 130. This part's 72, and I want the red angle. So how do I find that? I want the missing part. I already know the whole thing. Yep. Good. So take the whole angle, 130, and then subtract the 72, and we want to know what's left. So that's 58 degrees. So the measure of angle RSV is 58 degrees. So then 58 plus 72 gives you the whole angle, which is 130 degrees. So if ray PQ here bisects angle MPN, okay, so if it bisects, we know this half is congruent to this half, so I'm just going to mark it. And the measure of angle QPN is 35 degrees, so that half's 35. What is the measure of angle MPN? Most people get this one wrong because they don't fully read directions. I want angle MPN. What is that asking for? The whole angle. Yeah, if this half is 35, how big is this half? 35. So how big is the whole angle then?
70 degrees.
Yeah, 35 plus 35 is 75 degrees. So you need to make sure, right? You guys might look at this and be like, oh, the other half is 35. Well, yeah, you're not wrong, but that's not what they asked for. If they ask for the measure of angle MPQ, then it would be 35 degrees, but that's not what they asked for. Which angle is adjacent to angle JCK? Adjacent means you share a common vertex and a common side. There's actually two right answers here. If it shares a common side, it has to share this side. KCB.
KCL too also.
KCL is also an option. Angle KCL. Yep. You can do either. On your multiple choice, there's probably only going to be one of those. Yep. Okay, we'll get there. What does supplement mean?
180.
Yeah, they add up to 180. So measure of angle 1 is 80. Find the supplement. The supplement makes it add up to 180. So what we can do is 180 minus that angle measure, and the supplement is 100 degrees. Because 100 plus 80 adds up to 180. All right, last two. If the measure of angle 1 is 3x, and the measure of angle 2 is 2x, and angle 1 and angle 2 are complementary, then find the value of x. What does complementary mean again? 90. They add up to 90, right? Does it mean both these angles individually equal 90? Like that? No. They add up to 90. So 3x plus 2x equals 90. Again, I would give you half credit for even writing that. Then show me that you can solve it. So that's 5x's equals 90, and 90 divided by 5 is 18. Yep, and they just asked me to find x, so we're good. This is called the congruent complements theorem. So, if angle HCM is complementary to angle ECH and to angle PCN, then find the value of x. So this angle is complementary to both of them. So if this angle is the same, HCM, then what does it tell you about these two angles?
They're the same.
They're the same.
So
Yeah.
do I equal them to 90? Or 180?
No, they're the same. They're the same. If they're the same, what does that mean in math?
Oh, they equal each other.
Yeah, they equal each other. Yep, because they're the same. They're congruent. They're equal to each other. So subtract x from both sides. We get 4x plus 20 equals 32. Subtract 20 from both sides. We get 4x equals 12. Divide both sides by 4. And we get x equals 3.